The following podcast contains coarse language and adult themes. This week on the show, we're headed to the Emerald Isle to chat one of the finest examples of TV melodrama in recent memory, and I probably won't do a stereotypical Irish accent. But then again, I might. I'm Reegs.
And I'm Eddie.
And this is the Film Addicts podcast. Hey there, friends, and welcome back to the Film Addicts podcast. I'm here with Addy. How you doing, brother?
I am doing good. I'm excited for today.
It's good. We've been talking about doing this one for ages, and you were like, watch normal people, you fuck. And I said, all right, I will then. You don't need to get so aggressive. And I did, and it is, as I said in the roundup, it's one of the best examples of a TV melodrama I've ever seen. Melodrama being a story that is set in real world. So this is something that could actually happen. There's no orcs or djinn or nymphs or anything like that in it, or superheroes or nothing. But it is a heightened version of reality. But then again, it does play into very much the way that people deal with these kind of issues of love and loss and mental illness and growing up from a teenager to an adult, and sex in particular, and all the little potholes and pratfalls in between here and there. But it does heighten things. So we are going to talk about it. It's going to be lovely. Addy's a bit of an expert, so he's going to run the shit. He's also been reading the book of recent times, based on Sally Rooney's. Is it Sally Rooney?
Yes.
Sally Rooney. Just double checking that's her full name. Yeah, just Sally Rooney. Sally Rooney wrote a book. Yep, you're holding it up right now in front of me, so just check that. It's a really dope-ass cover. And I don't know if the book's any good, but Addy's into it, so we're going to chat that. But before we do that, what are we watching? Oh, you want to do it like that? We'll do it like that. Okay, ready. What are we
watching?
We'll work on our timing, but it's a new segment. So what are we watching? Addy, what are you watching, sir?
Oh, no, you go first, because mine's a bit emotional week. So
okay.
You go first.
Not much, actually. Like I said last week, I was going back to the well, watching some older stuff. I did restart. I'm big into Jon Bernthal at the moment because of this new American Gigolo series. I'm really digging him. He's also got a podcast that I've been listening to a lot lately. It's called The Real Ones, where he just interviews different types of people, people that he meets in his journey as an actor. There was some cops from Baltimore. There was Pink's husband, whose name escapes me, but he's a motocross rider guy. He spoke to an ex-wrestler who's his wife's uncle-in-law, and talking to the episode I'm listening to at the moment, he's talking to these guys who go over and try and stop poaching in Africa. Just a really interesting discourse about topics that I normally wouldn't engage in because it's not in my sphere. I normally listen to film-based podcasts. So that's been really good. But I started rewatching The Punisher, which is now on the Disney Plus, and streams in UHD, which is pretty cool, which is ultra high definition. And it's cool. And he's very good in it. There's just a lot of guff in between the really good Jon Bernthal scenes. Like the stuff with Madani and her working, trying to just figure out who killed her partner in Afghanistan. And then it was tied into what Frank was doing. And then Microchip comes in and all the shit with his family. Like if you were to completely remove all the scenes that didn't have Jon Bernthal in it, it'd be about one episode's worth of fucking stuff. Like if you only had his scenes. So that's a bit irritating. But last night, me and my sister-in-law watched Superman 3 with the Richard Pryors and the wonderful, wonderful, totally committed in that movie, even though he doesn't really need to because it's complete and utter bananas nonsense film. Just so wonderful. Watched that. And then after that, we watched the really great, is it Gavin? It's not Gavin Hood. Gavin someone or other. He made a film called Warrior in 2011 with Joel Edgerton, Aussie Joel Edgerton. A whip whip. Whooping my country there. There we go. That's a little bit of country pride there for you. But Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy and the wonderful Nick Nolte as two brothers who enter an MMA competition and end up fighting. And it's really a like, again, melodrama. It's really amazing piece of acting work. It just happens to be surrounded by these really cool fights as well. Really great film. Shot in like 6 weeks or something, and then it took him a year to edit it. Frank Grillo's in it as a trainer. Like, just it's absolutely chef's kiss. It's top 10 movies of all time in my opinion. Definitely top 10 fight movies. But yeah, so that's what I've been up to. Addy, what have you been doing?
That's awesome, man. I haven't watched Punisher. Is that true? What you said? That if you take out all of John Bernthal's scenes, it's just one episode worth of shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, the trouble with the Netflix shows, the Marvel shows, I think, was that they were manacled to this run of 13 episodes. The only one that didn't do that was Defenders. It was like 8 or something. But there's a lot of padding there. And I understand that they're trying to show depth of character and bring more people in, and inclusion's important too. Like, you know, the main character, Madani, is, you know, a woman of color, and she's a great actress, but the story just doesn't work for me. I don't know why. Maybe she doesn't have the right chemistry with people, or I'm not really sure. But, you know, and the stuff with Microchip's family is supposed to endear you to him, but it just, and then Frank makes some weird decisions about it, around it, and it's, yeah, and he's really great. And the first episode is a good indicator of what it could have been, but then it sort of becomes this big conspiracy thing, and he's not really doing any punishing stuff. He never really gets to that point. I mean, it's worth watching for him, but yeah, if you were to just take his scenes, it wouldn't be his 13 episode program, that's for sure. It wouldn't make any fucking sense either, but yeah. I would recommend just going back and watching Daredevil season 2, because he's great in that. And he's punishing the shit out of some people. It's awesome.
Damn. I gotta start watching Daredevil.
Do season 2, just jump in. You know everything you need to know. Kingpin's in prison. And Matt Murdock's got a suit. And then it's just a new adventure. And Punisher turns up and just starts murking all these dudes who had anything to do with his family's death. And ends up going to trial and stuff. Like, it's the trial of the Punisher's awesome. Then he's in prison and shit, like taking on Kingpin, and it's some baller ass shit. And it's a bit better paced than Punisher season 1. I don't remember season 2 very well, but we'll see.
Good to know.
Enough of that rant.
There's no rant.
Disney Plus, you'll fucking watch Punisher and you'll love it. Fuck off, Disney Plus. I don't want issue punishments. Ridiculous. Okay, you go. Sorry.
Yeah. So I've been watching House of the Dragon, because it comes out every Monday. For Asian countries, it comes out every Monday because time works in different ways.
It sure does. Just ask Barry.
Yeah. Oh shit! That reminds me. I watched the Flashpoint Paradox again.
The animated?
Yeah, the animated film. In preparation of getting into the comic that you sent me.
Oh yeah. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, and after that, I went into Normal People.
Yeah,
as you do.
And this is how many times? Like, I think you said 18 last episode, but it can't actually be 18. How many do you think it is?
No, it's actually 18. Through 18.
Okay, that's a hell of a commitment, sir.
I know. You're also talking to a motherfucker who's watched Avengers Endgame 199 times. So
that's all right. I love you for that. That makes you my hero. Talk about commitment to it. Talk about finding some joy in something. You know, some people would do that, Addy. Some people would say, "What a wanker," or "He can't actually like it that much," or "That's a lie," or something. I know that's the truth because you're a genuine human being. But some people would charge you for that, and fuck them. Find the thing that you love and get as much out of it, get as much juice out of that shit as you can. You know, the world can be a really fucking dodgy place sometimes, and you got to find the joy where you find the joy. So you watch it. You should go and watch it one more time. Make it 200 and fuck everybody.
Yeah, I've been waiting for something really special to happen, so I watch it the 200th time, and that's it. Because if I watch it like 200 times, I'll clear the guy who made the world record of watching it. So
You send him a really rude email. Like, fuck you. And then you have this back and forth war with the dude.
yeah, and yeah, so I watched Normal People,
Yep.
and then shit got insanely emotional. So
Mm.
I thought, hey man, like one of my favorite movies of all time is X-Men Days of the Future Past. Why not watch that?
Sure.
So I watched that on Sunday night.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
It's just
And
funny
then
considering what we have in nerd news.
yes. It's just where it's even more strange. That's why I said it's been an emotional week. Because
Mm.
of what comes next. So I watched it on Sunday night, and then a lot of shit happened. On Mondays I wasn't free. And so Tuesday came around, and I came back from uni, and I was like, man, I've only watched Logan once. That was in theaters, and I don't remember watching it again and again because I do that with a lot of movies.
Same.
And so I put on Logan last night,
Mhm.
and I put that on, and then I realized why I don't watch it a lot.
Okay. Not a fan?
I got to the point where X-23 kills, or like, yeah, X-23 kills Charles Xavier.
Mm. Fucking spoilers for a movie that came out in 2017, but or whatever it was.
He's 2014, I think.
No, it was way after that. It was 2017.
Is it?
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah, 2017. He's still 5 years. I don't care.
No, it's fine. Okay, so you got to there and then you thought, nah, this isn't for me.
No, I got to there and then I realized, oh fuck, this is why I don't watch it. This is why I don't rewatch it. And I was like, oh, it's going on, so I'm not going to stop it. That's like disrespecting X-Men.
And Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
And Patrick Stewart, you son of a bitch.
Yes. Who actually, like, have you seen Mr. Holmes? That's it's a standalone Sherlock Holmes film that's based on, like, Sherlock Holmes was like very, very old, played by Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
Yeah, about the beekeeping. Yep.
Yeah, it's strange how like those two actors took like such big characters and then made so. It's a very different take that both of them took, because like I hate seeing Charles Xavier like that in Logan, but it's also the best that we've got of Charles Xavier if you don't count the James McAvoy story, like the lineup of those films, which those films are also amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Especially Days of Future Past. It's so well executed.
And I watched Logan last night, and then today we woke up.
And we'll have to get into nerd news to talk about it properly. But I rewatched Logan a couple of weeks ago when I got was one of the first things I watched in 4K. And fuck off! It's a beautifully shot film, but it's bleak. You know, you can't watch that and also have a piece of cake. You know, you can't watch that and have something enjoyable, but you've got to watch that and drink straight brown liquor and smoke a cigar or something. Like it just, it's not a
happy
enjoyment
film.
out of it for a different reason, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, having said that, we should probably get into nerd news. There's only one story today because fuck everything else. It's nerd news. So we all woke up this morning thinking it was going to be a normal day, and I got a message from a good friend of mine, Grant Carter from The Carter Show, and he said unto me, check this out. And it was what I thought was an ad for aviation gin, but no, it turned out to be well, I guess it was almost a release video about Deadpool 3, which they're currently shooting. Like they're shooting that film. He's in costume in this video. Everybody's seen the video we're talking about. I'm absolutely positive. Yeah, it was a release date announcement basically. But Addy, what did it also have in it?
I can't, man. I'm fucking teared up.
At the end of the video, Hugh Jackman walks into frame, and Ryan Reynolds asks him if he wants to play Wolverine one last time, and he says, "Sure, Ryan." Cut to and I will always love you by Whitney Houston, but the subtitles say I will always love Hugh. Coming Hune, and then the Deadpool logo comes down, 3 claws come through it, and it's a September 2024 release date. Boom. Fucking the Jackman is coming back as Wolverine one more time for Deadpool 3. This is huge. I'm surprised. We're also surprised, honestly. But this is something that fans have been asking for, since they did the dodgy version of Deadpool and Wolverine, X-Men Origins or whatever it was called. And then, Ryan Reynolds has been teasing it or trying to get Hugh Jackman to do it for ages. It's the MCU outing. They've got the multiverse open. It's the prime opportunity, especially with the popularity of something like Spider-Verse being so successful. They obviously backed a truck of gold bullion and just delicacies from all around the world, coconuts, bananas, and dates to Hugh Jackman's house, and I'm excited.
Logan's coming, man. He's coming, and I'm so amped. I'm so excited.
And there's so many ways it could go too. It could be, is it a cameo? Like, is it, hey, you want to come back and play it one time? But then again, it's like at the end of the first Deadpool film where they did the spoof of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he's like, oh, Cable's going to be in the next one. No one knew that was true. Boom. The entire second film is Cable. It's and hopefully he'll be in this too. Like if it's Weapon X and or the Extreme X-Men version of the X-Men where it's, X-Force, but Wolverine's in there and he's got the black suit and shit. Like that's what Deadpool's wearing. He's wearing that the Wolverine's crew of black ops guys. That's looks like what he's in costume. Or it could be just a cameo. What do you reckon?
I don't think it's a cameo, because if it was a cameo, they wouldn't announce it like this.
Yeah, it's pretty big news.
Yeah, and it's he's been trying to get him for a long, long time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For as long as the Deadpool films have been, after that first one made all of the money that there is that movie made, it was kind of a foregone conclusion. It was an inevitability of nothing else, but I don't think anyone really believed it. And, then COVID came and everyone forgot about what could be, and they were only focused on what is. And now, look where we are. That's why it was so easy to surprise us, because of COVID. We weren't prepared.
I don't know why, dude. It's the way you said because of COVID, just...
Well, why? Because it's so irrational and untrue? Yeah, that's
no.
Usually where my sweet spot is.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that we're here, because yes, Logan was an amazing end to that story, but the one thing we all wanted, especially the mutant fans, the X-Men fans, is just have him in the MCU. And that was his regret also, that at the time Fox owned the X-Men character, so they couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very happy that I'll be able to witness that. And with him coming into the MCU, he will also become the
Disney princess. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, man. I'll watch that film out of nowhere.
Fuck, man. You know what they should do? He's a song and dance man. Give Homie a fucking musical number in this film. I mean...
Oh, my God. It's Deadpool, of course.
All of a sudden, Wolverine, schnickety schnoing, just starts taking out dudes with a berserker, and then, pops claws covered in blood. Oklahoma. Just busts out into Oklahoma. Oh, Oklahoma, with the wind comes. But it's Hugh Jackman, who can sing and doesn't look like this.
And it's Deadpool playing the guitar in the background.
Yeah, but with a corn cob pipe and a hat,
Yeah.
Ding, 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 some banjo action or something. Yeah, I mean, we're writing it for you already, pals. Come and check us out. But I will say this much: that year, 2024's Marvel Studios movie release slate is Captain America New World Order, so Cap 4, I guess, Thunderbolts, Deadpool 3, and then Fantastic Four at the end of the year. That's $400 billion dollars. Jeff Bezos is going to have a fucking heart attack, the amount of money these things make. Sorry, you were drinking, I didn't mean. He's going to be looking at it going, man, that's so many spaceships that look like dicks that I could make with that amount of money.
That's DCEU, no MCU.
Jeff Bezos' ship looks like a huge cock. You should check it out. Like it looks like a big, more of a rubber dildo than in Man of Steel. I'm telling you, it's legit. So yeah, welcome back, Hugh. You're a genuine talent. You'll always be my Wolverine, and unless they cast Taron Egerton, come on. Yeah, just. It's going to be so much fun, of course.
Yes. I can't wait.
So, that's pretty much it. There was a couple of other stories of Who Gives a Fuck.
Yeah.
Let's get into talking about normal people. Now, I think critically, how did you discover it?
Oh, me?
Yeah. Let's start at the beginning.
So I discovered it
Why did you think that I meant me? Because I said, how did you discover it? I don't talk in the third person. Hey, Riggs.
Yeah.
Yes, Riggs. How did you discover normal people? Well, Riggs, Addie told me. But then again, you know that because you're me. Sorry, just had a moment.
And then you say you don't talk to yourself in third person?
Yeah, well, I talk to myself, but that's a different thing altogether. Sorry. So how did you discover normal people? Was it the book first or was it the show?
Oh, hell no. I don't read much books anyway.
Okay.
Oh, very, very slow reader. And so I usually don't read books that don't really interest me. Plus I've always not been interested in romantic novels anyway.
But you didn't know what it was, really. It was just...
Yeah. So I discovered it through just scrolling on Instagram and seeing clips of it. I should check this out. Looks good. Plus it had the stamp of BBC on it, so anything that BBC does is always really, really good.
It's a good, really good quality anyway, even if you don't like the source material or the topic, the subject matter or whatever. It's always very, very well produced.
Absolutely. And I fired up the first episode and I just fell in love with just both of them.
Mm.
But I watched the first time I watched it in 12 days. I watched each episode each day, which if you're watching this Huh?
I did the same thing. Remember I told you I couldn't do one episode because I didn't want to just burn through it.
Yeah, I watched the first and I was going to binge all of it because that's what I usually do. But I watched the first episode. I was like, nah, it needs more time because I feel like there's something coming that will have an impact somewhere. So I give it time, which is the way I recommend. Give it time, give it all the time that you can. Have fucking a month between episode 1 and episode 2. It's just let's see if it sticks with you or not, and it did for me. And I was devastated on day 12. I cried my eyes out.
Even though, I mean, we're going to spoil it here, folks. The weaving of the story, Marianne Connell's story. Marianne and Connell are the lead characters, played by Daisy-Edgar Jones and Paul Mescal, and they are in the same high school together, but they are in different, friend groups, friend bases. And so they start a secret affair because she's kind of a bit of an oddball and people don't like her, and he's a bit of a jock and doesn't really want people to know about it. And through high school finishes, they kind of separate and then come back together in their college years and through gap years and start up a romantic relationship again. And she goes through some interesting sexual transformations and he goes through terrible, terrible depression, and they keep sort of weaving in and out of each other's lives into their early 20s. And I kind of forgot what my point was. But the I think what Addy was saying about the first episode, and then watching it all the way through to the 12th episode, it's not an unhappy ending, but it's not the ending that you probably want. Even though you can write the ending later on, there's no sequel to this as far as I understand. There's no planned second series. It was a mini series. It doesn't end horribly. No one dies. It's not a massive breakup, anything like that. He gets a really great opportunity as a young writer to go and work in America. And she says, do that. And it ends like that. Like, you're not ready for the ending. It ended, and I literally said out loud, alone in my house, completely alone, now that the cat's gone, what the fuck? What the actual fuck? How can you end it like that? So I understand your feeling, but yeah, it's not a really sad ending. It's not.
Oh, absolutely. It's not, and it's, the more you watch it, or the more that I've watched it, I've come to realize that it's, and like you said, like, it's very true to them as characters and as people, and it's beautiful in a way, because everything that happens in your life not always sticks around, and it reminds me of your favorite line of Vision, where everything, like, I'll fuck it up again, so you have to say it.
A thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
Exactly.
And that's also, as you get older, trust me, you sometimes discover that love isn't enough. You can't live symbiotically with another person. It doesn't work. You can't grow like that. You need to be an individual and understand yourself as an individual in order to be able to be in a relationship. As far as I feel anyway. Maybe in other relationships it does work like that. Maybe you can be in each other's pockets and live intertwined lives, and it all is fine. But yeah, I don't see their relationship, Connell's and Marianne's relationship is symbiotic, especially at the point where he's suffering terrible depression, and she's going through these kind of this sexual awakening, and there's some sexual violence stuff involved there as well. Like not the R word, which I hate saying out loud, or anything like that, but she is discovering parts of herself that she wasn't aware were there, and he's a little uncomfortable about it, and they're finding it hard to work those things into their relationship, even though what you do at that point is go, okay, we are two individuals, and these are who we are, and we either need to accept them to be in a relationship or not. There's not a lot of compromise. Like, people think adaptation is compromise, but it's not. It's just learning how to be two different people living together. Does that make sense? I felt like I rambled just then.
Yeah.
You told me at the start of this, if I start to ramble, tell me to stop. You didn't fucking tell me to stop. I'm rambling.
No, it absolutely makes sense, because I feel like the main cause of everything not working out, especially like every time they come together, is they don't have communication, which is the most important thing in a relationship. Like, by the end of the series, they're kind of comfortable telling all of it to each other, but when they start off, especially the time that you're talking about, it's hard for them to actually tell the other person that how much they mean to. Like, Colin can't say that he loves her, but he can tell her that I want you to stay. Yeah. But that's not the same as saying that he loves her, because that's something that she wants to hear. She doesn't want to hear that I want you to stay. But the thing is, by the end of the show, she realizes what he means by when he says, I want you to stay, which is the beautiful thing about the show.
I think they do come to a place of understanding each other, and it's really beautifully articulated by, you were saying that Connell's character has trouble articulating his feelings in a way that Marianne can hear, because their love languages are different. And then at the sort of last time you see them sleep together, they finished. They have completed the task at hand, and they're both lying there naked, and they're both completely naked and completely vulnerable and completely open. And he's lying on her, and he asks her if she enjoyed it, and if she liked it. She said, "Yeah, I really did." And she's sort of playing with his hair, and it's this beautiful moment of openness and that we haven't seen. We haven't seen them like that together. Some of the sex stuff has been quite ferocious and quick, and you've only seen snippets, but it's very real. But this is the calm afterwards, and that speaks a lot to where they are as individuals at that point in time.
Absolutely. And yeah, there's a lot of sex in the show, but it's I don't know how to say here. It's not like it's played as a gimmick. Like each time any one of them has an intercourse, there's a meaning behind it, that every time they go through that, it kind of means something to them.
And there's nothing. It's very pedestrian. It's very the way that people have sex. Like when you're in a relationship, you have sex. When you're in your your late teens, early 20s, I'm talking about people in sexual relationships. I know there are asexual people and, people who aren't in relationships and stuff and have one night stands. There's all a myriad of different types, but I'm talking about just these specific people in this show. It's not like, it's not a Paul Verhoeven film, it's not Basic Instinct where everyone's lit and it's, and the boobies are slick and there's lots of nasty close-ups and there's people giving it, that kind of stuff. Like, none of that business. This is just, the fumbly kind of awkward, intimate sex that you have with someone that you have a serious connection with, the way that these two characters do. And it speaks very honestly. And it also tells the story. It tells the story of their development as in the relationship and also the development as individuals. Like, he has relationships and stuff, but you never see him in sexual situations outside of her. But you see her in sexual situations, some of which are, can be a little bit confronting. There's definitely some dom sub stuff going on. There's some sort of BDSM style stuff going on, and it's not all being forced on her. Like, she's finding herself in that, and I think it's very, nothing is without character intent. Nothing. It's never gratuitous.
Absolutely. And while we're at the topic, I want to say, the first time that Marianne and Connell have sex is I think it's in the second episode while they're still in high school.
Yeah.
I just love that, Connell gives her the option and he asks her, does she want a condom or not? It's something that you don't really see a lot in films or TV, but it also shows that, when TV, especially TV, when they portray teenagers, it's a very weird kind of thing. Like, it's not very real. It's not very true. Like, half of them are just gothic people that goth or really into goth, and half of them are just the rich assholes. And it's something it just shows how much they as people can and will be maturing. At that point, Connell has had an experience before, but Marianne hasn't. So he respects that, and he gives her the choice. And I just found that very I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's respectful in a way that you might not be expecting.
Yeah, true.
But
that's exactly what I was looking for.
It gets flipped as well, because they've had sex at one point and she says to him, they're lying there again post-coital, and says, I remember watching you playing football or whatever it is that he was playing. And she's like, and I imagined watching you have sex with someone, not even me, just watching you have sex. And he's like, that's a bit weird. Like, he's quite prudish. And later on, when they're sort of later down the line, she's kind of discovered a sub part to her sexual identity. She asks him to kind of hurt her, and he's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hit you. That's not how I that's not how I relate to you. And she's confronted by that because it makes her feel like there's something wrong, which of course there isn't. If two consenting adults are in a relationship, they need to talk these things through. That's why people have safe words and all that stuff. It's just these are normal ways to break down who we are as individuals. And it's only important in as much as because they're young and the development of these sexual identities changes over time. And the thing that stays the same is their love for each other. So it doesn't matter what changes about them, they're still very much, they're soulmates, and it sucks.
I know. It sucks so hard.
Yeah.
Because it goes all around to the ending where he says, I couldn't feel, I won't be able to feel what I feel for you for anyone else. And she says, I know. And it's such a beautiful thing, because when we start the show, Marianne she's not, a lot of people don't like her.
Yeah.
And
she's very, very unliked and made fun of, and because she's a bit alternative and she's a bit weird.
Yeah. And no one has ever told her that you're beautiful, that no one's ever told that they love her. And it's something that these two people individually and together have grown to appreciate about each other. Like she knows that at the end, she knows that Connor won't be the same person he is today without her. And it's not something that she takes pride in. It's just something that she loves about him. And it's heartbreaking to see them go, but it's true to their story, and it's true to their characters to love each other even though they're not together.
Yeah, and they also, they separate them pretty quickly in friends group, and they come from different socioeconomic backgrounds as well. Connell's mother, played by the wonderful Sarah Green, who's currently in Bad Sisters, which is a great show on Apple if you get a chance to watch that. She's Marianne's house cleaner, and Marianne comes from a family where her mother is terribly meek and afraid of what everybody thinks and the perception that other people have of them as a family. And then there's this horrible brother played fantastically by Frank Blake, just such a disgusting, misogynistic, toxic person. It's a pretty creepy brother-sister thing that on his side of it, he says stuff to her around, her way she looks and her relationships and stuff that you as a brother don't say to a sister. It's just, it's really, really grubby. And he ends up being a fucking coward. That's probably one of my favorite scenes, where she's come home, they've got into an argument. At this point, Connell is suffering from full-blown depression. A friend of his sadly commits suicide, and it triggers, a depressive episode, and he is diagnosed with that. And word gets around, and Alan says to Marianne, I don't want you hanging out with him anymore. He's a nutcase, blah, blah, blah. They get into a bit of an altercation through kind of Alan's fault, but just them kind of running around trying to avoid each other in this house. Marianne, gets knocked around and gets a blood nose, and she goes to Connell and sort of says, this is what happened, and he's at the house, and he says, did he do this? And she says yes, and he goes, go and wait in the car. And Connell storms in there, grabs Alan by the throat, and throws him up against the wall and says, if you ever lay your hands on her again, I will fucking kill you. And you believe it. He's never been aggressive like that before. Even in the episode where they were in Europe and they were staying in the place, and Marianne was dating Jamie, and he got real weird with her, and they had an argument in the kitchen because he was really drunk. He never got physical. He just removed Marianne from that ugly situation, and they were okay. But this is the first time he's gotten physical, and you believe it. He's like, absolutely, I will choke you the fuck out. And I was just like, oh yes, someone put this Alan prick in his place. I hate people like that. So, and he's not even a stereotype. It's just a really well-drawn character.
After he shoves Arnold and says, "Oh, you lay your hand on her again and I'll fucking kill you." And he goes out and he goes and sits in the car. And that's the first time he actually right out comes and says to Marianne that I love you. It's something, and just before that they had like got into like a weird thing where like it was like the previous scene was them having sex and Marianne telling Connor that if he would hit her, and he pulls out and he said I couldn't, that's not me, and then she runs off and he's thinking about that, and there's a moment where he's just sitting on the bed and he's crying because he's not able to fully tell her how he feels about her, and he blames all of it on himself. It's a progression of character when he at the end of the episode finally says that I love you and that nobody will ever hurt you again. And it's also the first time that in that episode, it's the first time that we see normal people as a title, like in a scene, and not like a black screen with white letters.
That, I mean, well, let's talk about as a production for a second. It is one of the most beautifully photographed. I mean, the writing is incredible. It's so realistic. It sounds the way people talk to each other. It has the element of melodrama. You know, people are articulating in a way that they don't normally. Fights don't happen the way they normally do. You know, you never think about the really cool thing to say in a fight until after it's happened in real life. But just in terms of the way that it looks, the palette, it's very soft. It's quite matte as a finish. It's not glossy at all. They use really long lenses, so really tight framing and really shallow focus, particularly on Marianne and Connell, not on anyone else. You know, there's some close wide lens use on them that is just spectacular. And it's so much so that I had a conversation with a friend of mine, Adrian, who's an actress, the other day. I'm not sure if I mentioned this on another episode. Maybe I didn't. And we're working on a TV show together. I mentioned it last week, and she's been a real confidant as far as it goes. She's read the different versions of the scripts and everything, and I got real gun shy after seeing this show because it's so fucking good. It's so amazing, and my abilities as a cinematographer, I couldn't even begin to match up to the kind of stuff here. And it made me be like, it was like when Steven Spielberg was interviewed and he was talking about the first time he saw Lawrence of Arabia, and he was like, well, what the fuck am I doing? How can I possibly be Steven Spielberg? You know, when David Lean's out here making these masterpieces. That's how I feel about this show. It is so beautiful. It's got a really unusual like cinematic style. Its compositions are quite off a lot of the time, and that's indicative of people's mental states. Like it speaks so loudly in image in a way that you don't then need to rely on the dialogue to. A lot of stuff that gets the message across is tight, you know, close-ups or solo, you know, singles of Connell and Marianne. When is it an over two shot of them? Like, when is it over their shoulders? It fucking never is. They're almost never in the frame comfortably together unless it's a wide. There's so much being said in the way the camera is moved and the way the camera is sometimes when it is still. You know, it's not just getting the story done. It is being really deliberate and careful about what it's telling you in every single frame. And like I said to you when I first started watching it, you can still store any of those frames and put it on your wall and it's a poster. Like, they're just...
Yeah.
I can't speak more highly. It's changed the way that I want to make films. I am now shooting differently because of this show. I had a shoot, you know, 2 weeks after I finished it. It was my first shoot back from my break. And I noticed my framing was different. I noticed the way that I was lighting was different. The way I'm capturing is different. I'm focusing on key lighting. I'm focused on motivated lighting. I'm focused on keeping things nice and flat and not so blown out and not so contrasty. Like, have it look like the way that, you know, it feels, the way that you want something to feel. So yeah, it's such a beautiful piece of work in that respect. Sorry, I rambled.
Yeah. Fuck no, man. That's something that I struggle with because I don't really know a lot of technical stuff there. So I'm glad that you take over that department.
Well, you're welcome. That's 25 5 years of me running around with the cameras and stuff. I wish I'd seen Normal People when I was in high school. I swear to you. I know I was... When did it come out? 2019? 2020?
2020.
Yeah. So the year that I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker was 2000. So
20 years.
20 years early. But yeah, fuck, I would have loved to have been inspired by this at that age. It would have, but then again, I probably wouldn't have taken it on because I was young and stupid. 17-year-old kid who thought filmmaking looks like fun. Yeah, we'll get prepared to carry shit everywhere for the rest of your life and be broke half the time and work on stuff that never gets anywhere. And it's just, oh my goodness, why don't you just learn the flute? Just because it's more compact, who's going to carry a flute around. But anyway, I digress.
I'll just talk about the title for a bit because, well, I'm not talking about like the book title. I'm talking about like when the title screen shows up.
Yeah, same.
In an episode. I think the reason why the last two episodes, episode 11 and 12, have normal people out there in like the open is because it's I think the first time. Well, it's because Marianne and Connor like at home in Sligo, which is an island which I really want to visit after the show. Like, I just want to like run away to Ireland now.
It's a real place. It's not like Gotham or something.
No, it's a real place. It's a real city.
I don't know. I've never been to Ireland.
Yeah, I feel like the reason why they did that with the title is that it's, I guess, for the first time, Marianne and Connor are together and like taking on the world together, supporting each other together openly and accepting each other.
Sure.
And so the title reflects that. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But also, like, the title of the show, Normal People, I think it's sort of saying that all of these relationships, all of these people, whether they're just side characters, ancillary, parents, or your main characters, they're all going through stuff that everybody goes through. And let's not mince words about it. Halfway through this series, Connell has a fucking mental breakdown. And
yes.
he then, from that point on, something has been triggered in him and he suffers manic depression from that point on. There is an absolutely heart-wrenching scene where he describes what it's like to feel that way, where you can't articulate what's wrong, where you can't say, I know why I'm crying, or I know why I can't sleep. There is something, I'm exhausted, but I also have all this energy. Like, these aren't exact words that he's saying, but this is what he's, the point that he's getting across. And he says, he's on Skype with Marianne, and he says he's really tired, and she says, do you want to just go to bed and just leave Skype open and you go to sleep with me? And she stays there and she's just studying, and he falls asleep with Skype open, and then he wakes up in the morning and she's there. Like, that is, oh man, like that'll tear me up every time because it's so beautiful and it's so true. Like, have you ever had a friend who cared about you that much? Just the honesty and the reality and the truth of this thing. And truth is in short supply in 2022, my friends. There's a lot of perception, but that's a real thing. And I think that's what it means by normal people. This is something we all go through in different ways, in different facets. And if you were to dig deep enough into someone's life, you would find this stuff. And it's everyone has a story. Whether you're looking for it as an empathic person or not, it's there. And that's what normal people means.
It does something with Colin's character that I don't think it's been done before. It actually normalizes mental health and just mental distress, say, or just depression in general. Like, a lot of people have preconceived notions about what depression is, and I think it's what Connell goes through in those episodes. It's very real, and it's shown in a way that you don't get a certain answer. Like, this is what Connell's feeling, and this is what he's going through, and it's not the same for everyone. And it can never be the same for everyone because everyone is different.
They both, I mean, everybody in it is top of the game. you know, these are some of the best actors on the planet. Daisy-Edgar Jones and Paul Mescal, hashtag Dick Grayson and Babs, or Dick and Babs, you know, Robin and Batgirl, Nightwing and Batwoman, whatever. Just make it happen. It would be perfect. And if you don't believe me, read the latest issue of fucking Nightwing. Read the last 3 pages of that book and tell me. I now hear them both in with Irish accents, which I haven't done yet. So I would like a round of applause from the crowd, please. But thank you, Eddie. Both two of the most naturalistic actors I've ever met. Paul Mescal plays sweet and uncomfortable, like you don't believe. Like he is. I've known guys like him, guys who are handsome, who are talented, who are kind of jocks as well, genuinely liked by everyone, but are so insecure, but then articulate, you know, things so well, very, very poignantly, especially when she says things about herself which are negative, and he comes back with, "Hang on, that's not true at all." Like,
yeah,
it's such a perfectly rounded character, and she, that wide-eyedness, she's very youthful at the beginning, and she becomes bashed around a little bit, so much so that in fact, when you told me that you prepared me, you were like, it deals with mental illness in a very real way, so just prepare yourself to be, you know, I don't like the word triggered because that's an internet thing, but you know, it might bring up some feelings for you. I just automatically assumed, for whatever reason, maybe it's, you know, maybe it's misogynistic even, I don't know. I just assumed it was Marianne who had the problem, because she presents as the one who's going to be less likely to be okay with themselves, but in the end, she's the one who becomes fully formed much sooner than he does. And it's that middle part of the season, or the middle part of the show, the run of the show, where I was like, oh shit, okay, this is that was another thing. It was so surprising. I never knew where it was going to go. Yeah, I just as actors, as young actors, I think there's no one better. Like they're top of the heap. You know, this is the generation of actors who are going to take over from, you know, the guys who are turning in their 40s and 50s now, who were you know, these kind of actors when I was in high school. You Leonardo DiCaprio's and your Kate Winslet's. You know, these two actors, given the opportunity. Daisy-Edgar Jones is already blown up like crazy. Where the Crawdads Sing is one of the best films I've seen this year. She is spectacular in it. You know, and Under the Banner of Heaven, just, yeah, really, really competent, powerful actress.
She's also in another film called Fresh, which has her and Sebastian Stan.
Winter Soldier.
Yes, watch it. I'm not going to say anything about it because the little you know about that film, the more amazing it gets. So I won't be able to watch it.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is like I kind of know that it's about cannibalism, and I fucking hate cannibalism. Like, it's just,
it's
I mean,
not.
It's not that anyone likes cannibalism, but is it not?
It's not.
Lies and subterfuge. What are you drinking there? You got some lemon iced tea? You got lemon iced tea and you lies to me? Your lies in your mouth? See this? I'm drinking the fizzy water of truth. Yeah, I mean, like I said, no one liked cannibalism. Except cannibals, I guess. But yeah, I just can't dig on that. But I mean, you know, I'll watch it for her. And Sebastian Stan, he's fantastic. I really like him.
Oh, yeah.
Such a wonderful show, end to end. I can't recommend it enough. Anybody who's asked me in the last 2 months, oh, what's something that's really good? I need something to watch, whatever. It's the first thing I say. I remember being awkward and you know, not having a sense of self, but not being able to actualize, and being so self-deprecating and so self-analyzing. Like, he wants to be a writer really deeply, and it's clearly in him, but he doesn't think he's good enough. Like, he never. And that's a huge symptom of depression, is no faith in yourself.
Absolutely, and it's such a shift from when we first see them, because it's Marianne who feels like she's not good enough, and it's Connor who's the more confident one. And when we switch in episode 4, when they go to Trinity College, and it's switched where she's the confident one, and he's out of his comfort zone, and he doesn't know how to express himself. He doesn't know how to make friends, and he's kind of waiting for everything to happen, and he's contemplating even to go back and just work at a supermarket, because he's he's not sure of himself. He doesn't feel like he belongs there.
In high school, you're kind of all thrust together and you have to do all the same subjects and shit, but you don't identify specifically very much. Like, you might have interests or whatever. Like, I was a rarity at that point in time. Like, when I decided that I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was 17, it was halfway through my senior year of high school. Not always that common. Like, some people might go through all sorts of different shifts, and then by the time you get to university, you know, if you have chosen something, or at least you're leaning towards something, you find your tribe. You find a group of people, your ilk, who will, you know, bring that out in you, because they're all doing the same thing. But it's you know, and with Connell in high school, he had the safety net of those friends who didn't ask anything of him. And then he gets to university, and there's all these people asking him to articulate how he feels and contribute, and he can't, because he's not used to that environment yet. And Marianne, he's able to get away from all of that stagnation, you know, and the people who just look at her and label her and perceive her to be a certain thing. And then she gets into an environment where that is how you excel, by being not what people expect and not being quote unquote normal. And that's where she thrives. So yeah, it is an interesting shift, and that is reality. That is how people deal with growing up and becoming adults, or their version of adults, especially when you get into universities. Yeah, don't ever read this. Don't ever fucking read. Yeah, actually, Disney Plus here. We've got the
fuck off.
Yeah, fuck off, Disney Plus. You don't know how to do normal people. You can only do people with fucking arms that are robot and stuff. Big green lawyers.
Yeah,
Big Green Lawyers is a better name for that show.
Oh.
What's She-Hulk about? The Big Green Lawyer? What? Who are we? I don't know. Two versions.
My voice cracked when I said fuck off for some reason.
Fuck off! So you've been reading the book.
I have.
And how do you, like, have you read the whole thing? Are you just doing parts? What's going on?
So I started like on Monday. So I read the first 2 chapters, and I've read the last chapter.
Okay. Does it feel, you know, I mean, obviously you're going in with this stuff already attached, with voices already in your head, but does it feel, you know, the prose speaking to you the same way that the show does?
So here's the fucked up thing I did. I opened the book and I started with the last page.
Dude!
Because like the last line of the show is something that is so near and dear to my heart that I want to get a tattoo of it. But so I just wanted to see that if the book ends that way.
Oh yeah, right.
I need to.
The very end page first. What are you, Michael fucking Caine? That's ridiculous.
Yes.
Do you know how he does it? He does that with, like, he gets his script. Go, well, what I do when I get a script, I read the first page and then I read the last page, and if I'm on both pages, I do the movie. That's my Michael Caine. It's basically a British person with a block nose.
I was gonna say that.
Still haven't done Irish though, so
yeah.
Might at the end. Okay, so but as far as the book is concerned, do you feel, you said you weren't much of a reader, do you feel like what you have read, you kind of, is it opening anything else up, like is enriching it for you somehow, the story?
The interesting thing is, and I've read books, like I've read The Hobbit, I've read parts of The Lord of the Rings. Not that counts. I've read like literature books in school because, you know,
you have to.
Teachers make you do that. Something really interesting about this is that Sally Rooney like writes these two as like two individual people, right? And there's no story without them. But it's also like she voices herself about what's happening in the story. There's something that I read that like it enhances a bit more of Connell's character, I feel like, which is we have the scene in like episode 2 when she's eating the yogurt and like she spills the yogurt on her shirt, Marianne, and she goes in the toilet and she washes the shirt and then dries it. That in the book it's still there, but he's standing like in front of her house, and like he's thinking that people make such a fuss about her washing her clothes, or like just washing that part of her shirt in the washroom, and he thinks that why would people ever do that? Like I wouldn't do that. And he's standing there thinking, and what's happening is that he's standing there thinking about that, and then Marianne walks on in like a towel because she's just got a bath, and this is happening, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were at home."
I think that
And
in the show is that like there's another person in the bathroom with her, and she's topless. She's just standing there in a bra, and the other young girl thinks it's really weird for some reason, and that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Connell's like, why would anybody give a shit?
What he's thinking is that why would anyone make a fuss about seeing her like doing that? That's something that enhances him. Like he's still like very insecure and he's very shut off from his feelings. He thinks a lot of things, and he just doesn't say it.
Yeah,
because he's not been able to express himself.
For someone who has the inability to articulate his thoughts and feelings, they are still very strong in his head. He has very, very clear morals and a very clear line of right and wrong, and he does display that in the more extreme circumstances. But yeah, he has trouble getting it out. Which who can't relate to that? What I wanted to ask was, is the book, is it written is it a narrator from nowhere in particular, or is it from the perspective of the kids? Like, are they telling the story? Is it his narrative or her narrative, or is it just a narrator saying he said and she said?
Yeah, it's he said and she said.
Right.
But also, like, it's very weird for me because, like, now that I watch the show, right, I hear them like talking.
Of course.
And it's weird, but I love it.
It's one of the hardest things about reading a book that you have an attachment like in your head to from another source. You can't disconnect from that sometimes, and that's okay. As far as you haven't really gotten that far into it. You was talking about the ending of the book and that it is parallel to the ending of the show. We were talking about it a little bit earlier. Let's get into that just real quickly. For a really hard thing to do, and we've talked about this before, a really hard thing to do is end your series well. Whether you get 10 seasons or 1. Endings are the hardest thing. A lot of writers start with an ending in mind and work towards it because it's easier to do that. I'm guilty of that myself. Not that it's something you should be guilty for, but it is a very legitimate narrative device. I think it's perfect. Like I don't have a problem. It's bittersweet, and yet there's hopefulness, and you feel like maybe somehow these crazy kids are gonna work it out. They're gonna come back together in their 30s, and they'll both be fully formed, and they'll make it work. But we don't get that. All we get is the goodbye. I love that. I love a complex ending. I want to be challenged. I don't want everything tied up in a neat little bow. We were talking about, I was talking about things I've been watching. What are we watching before? And saying that I watched Warrior last night with my sister-in-law Alex, and she said I wanted more. Like the film just ends. The film just ends with Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy's character having the fight in the cage, and the fight ends, and they kind of reconcile in the cage, through the glory of violence. The quotation marks glory of violence, but the purging of masculine energy, and they break down and love each other again as brothers back together, and they just have this shot where it's beautiful. They walk towards camera holding each other, and that's it. That's the end of the film. And Alex said, I would love to see the next part. Like, what happens? Do they the prize money that they win, what do they do? Do they split it? Blah blah. And I'm like, I like to think that they opened a gym together with the money, to train people to do in MMA, and they brought their dad in, their absentee father, Nick Nolte, the ex-alcoholic. They brought him in, and they did it all together, and they helped out this person, and blah 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 blah. And you can make all that up because you have the opportunity to do that because they've left it open-ended. And I fucking dig that about any narrative, in particular something like Warrior, and in particular something like this. Like there is a whole story about Connell and Marianne that I have in my head, and it's glorious. How do you feel about it? Is it more frustrating for you? I don't know.
I'm really glad to see that you do have an ending for them in your head. where she says that you'll go and I'll stay and I'll always be here for you. And it has empty pages before like the promotion for like the next novel and all that shit.
Yeah, sure.
It has empty pages, so it kind of hints that it's an open ending. But I don't know, there's something just beautiful about it, just leaving it there for me. This came out in April 2020. It was the height of pandemic, and it really worked in the favor for the show, because I don't think anyone would have watched it if there wasn't a pandemic and people weren't locked in their houses.
It probably wouldn't have got any traction. There's no stars in it. It's from, it's not from like a foreign speaking country, but it's not, direct from, BBC. You think stuff made in the UK, even though this was, I know Daisy Ridley Jones is British, but yeah, it probably wouldn't have got as many eyes on it maybe. And I think there's also kind of like a purging in it. It's okay to be depressed, while you're watching.
Yeah.
And it was a time when everybody realized, hey, it's okay to feel like shit because everybody's feeling it, and this is the weirdest thing that's happened in our lifetime, some of us anyway. So I think that there was, it kind of, a lot of things had to fall into place for it to get the notice it did. I'm pissed off that I didn't notice it, because I would have loved to have watched this at that time.
Yeah, well, I didn't watch it either. Like, I watched it in 2021 last year, and I was going through some of the things that Connor goes through in that show. It really helped. It's something that I don't really recommend, but yeah, it's a bond that you have with those characters and that show specifically, where like you said, it's okay to be depressed, and it's kind of the whole thing where it's okay, it's normal to be this way, it's normal to feel this way. And at the end, I feel like I really don't want to imagine like anything that happens after that point. I don't know why. I probably should. I just love it because it's true to them, and it's true to what they represent, and it kind of speaks in all languages.
You can take this story and put it into any cultural situation, any language, any background, frame it in some sort of religious context, anything. The story still works. Like, it is still a story about people, and that's it. It doesn't matter that it's set in Ireland and then it's about these two, young white people. It could be anybody.
They're not people who haven't made mistakes. Like, Connor makes a lot of mistakes. And it's something that weighs on him, and he understands that yes, there are things that he did wrong by keeping everything that happened between her and him a secret, but also like he understands that nobody really cared,
and everyone kind of knew anyway.
When you have a relationship like that with someone, or when you have any kind of relationship, a lot of things in life don't last, and this didn't either. The silver lining is that they're happy for each other. The show kind of does it really well. And Marianne just in tears, they're both holding hands, and Marianne says, "You'll go, I'll stay, and we'll be okay." And I was like, that's not how you end it, right? That's not how you end it. I was in disbelief. It's beautiful because the best relationships are when people are happy for each other. For the first time they're in a relationship, things don't work out. Both of them, like especially Colin, he's down bad. When he meets her again in university, they have a conversation, and he says, "I really missed you." And that's not because of the sex that they had. It's because of the emotional connection that Connor had with her, because he wasn't able to be that person, someone else. It's an amazing coming of age story as well, and it is.
Yeah. Sorry, I haven't thought of it in that context before, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
And we follow them, and we see them fall in and out of love with each other, and it's I always find it funny, like the first few times I watched it, like that scene where he's drunk, and when they get the scholarships and everything, and he's drunk and he comes to her party and all beaten up and shit, and
he got mugged, yeah.
And he says, "I'm a pupils diluted," and she says that your pupils are diluted, and he says, "They always are when I'm with you."
Yeah.
And it's something that he's always wanted to say, but he's not been able to say it because there's so much going on with him inside of him. And at the end, they're truly honest with each other that he like, she knows that he wants to go, and he doesn't know how to tell her. So she starts the conversation by saying that, "I've been thinking about New York," and then he says, "I have to." And it's beautiful, man. It's like when that ending happens, it's you sit there and you realize everything that happened while it was crazy and loving and like heartfelt and heartbreaking, it's also very normal. People go through all of it every single day.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wholesome in that way, I guess.
If you've ever been in love, if you've ever had unrequited love, if you've never been able to articulate to someone how you feel about them in a loving relationship or even just a friendship, you know, I have friends, you know, probably mostly guys, but who, you know, you can't tell them you love them. Like, it just doesn't. That's not how they communicate. And then you hit them with that, and sometimes it takes a second for them to. Because I'm very much like that. You know, you just tell the people you love them while you can. This, you know, this shit is short, and it's and you only get the time that you're allotted, and you'd never know when it's up either. So you didn't ask to come to this motherfucker, and you sure as shit can't choose when to leave. So just keep some sunshine on your face, you know. And that's that. I think that anybody who's ever felt that way, you know, about someone else and not being able to get that across, will find something here. Like there's a lot of emotional ground to be mined, and you will discover things about yourself because you find yourself siding with different people at different times. Like, you know, you want Connell and Marianne to be together in high school, but you also, like, after a little while, you're like, you know what? Connell's mum's right. He's a fucking dick for keeping it a secret. And then he suffers the pain of that the entire series until that last scene where they both recognize that without each other, they wouldn't be who they are. And who they are at that point is now who they've always, like, the best version of themselves. And that's what being in a relationship is, whether it's a physical relationship or a sexual relationship, or if you're soulmates or platonic soulmates, or if you're just really good friends like me and you, Addie. Being in a relationship with a person should bring out the best in you. You know, you should be the best version of yourself because of that relationship. And it speaks so much to this, even though they're not going to end up together as far as the show ends, they are better for having known each other. That's a beautiful sentiment. Building important friendships, and as you get older, you'll notice that they kind of drop off a little bit. You know, your friends group gets smaller and smaller and smaller. The precious few who you have left are the ride or die motherfuckers. Like, they're the people who are critically important, and it says a lot about this show, particularly how Marianne comes from not the best family life, and she finds something in Connell and in Connell's mum as well. Like, you know, some solace that, hey, I can decide who I want to be around, and what their opinion matters more than anybody else.
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
It is. And I will say, this has been a much more serious episode than normal. It's been a bit more somber. There hasn't been any voices or giant penis jokes. And you know what? That's okay. Come back next week, and I guarantee we'll have some more of them. But for right now, absolutely 100%. Check out Normal People if you haven't seen it. I'm not sure where you saw it, Addie, on if it's on a streaming service or...
It's on Hulu. It's a BBC x Hulu collaboration.
Right. Okay. So Hulu is a streaming service that isn't available in my country. In Australia, as far as I understand, it does partner in some, after a fashion, with Disney Plus, in like sometimes for things like Dope Sick and whatever. But if you're in Australia and you want to watch Normal People, it's on Stan, the streaming service Stan. Did you want to do... Have you got any questions?
We've got questions.
We've got questions. Wonderful. I can't wait.
Sorry I went in all in, like, I spoke for a lot of time.
No, it's great. I think we both kind of were a little bit... it was different this time. Like, we were both kind of... And fuck it, I'll leave this in. We were both kind of taken over by the power of this show. And we were like, this is the first chance we've actually been able to kind of decompress and debrief about it together. And it had such a huge impact on me. And I was kind of... We weren't doing shows during when I was watching it. So yeah, I think we just both kind of verbally diarrheaed everywhere.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed it, everybody. But right now, it's time for some questions.
All right. Question one is: do you think there needs to be a second book or series? You go first.
Yeah, if I can do it. No, never. I wouldn't touch it. This would be like remaking Jaws. No, I don't think so. I mean, I would love to see these characters again. I would love to see these actors play these characters again. But instead, just make a fucking Nightwing movie.
Yes. Yes.
Call it Nightwing and Batgirl. No, it is such a beautiful, complete thing. I love a miniseries. I think they're great. Some of the best TV that I've seen in the last couple of years have been a miniseries. Mayor of Easttown. We Own This City. I think it's good. It's contained, and you can go back and find new things all the time, and just and re-enjoy it. And knowing what's coming as well feels, and then introducing it to other people. And yeah, it's not this mass-produced, let's do 12 seasons of The Walking Dead kind of feel. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty sure it's not 12. It's like 25 or something.
I don't know how many seasons. Does anybody else know how many seasons The Walking Dead is? I could probably look it up just as easy as anything else, but fucking, it seems like a lot. I remember back in the day, John Bernthal, you can't protect her, Rick. Like that kind of, those first 2 or 3 seasons. And then they got to the governor. I'm like, what the fuck is anybody doing ever? Like this is weird. Anyway.
It's like Walking Dead and Westworld. Like the fans are like, it's an amazing show, but we don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, it's some things outstay their welcome sooner than others, definitely. So what do you think?
Yeah. No.
No?
Absolutely not. And it's kind of weird because I have the same perspective as the actors. Like that's the end of, and the weird thing is that like that scene at the end is the last scene they shot with each other. Or like the last scene of the whole production.
Fucking break my little stupid heart. Oh. Okay, what's question number 2?
Question 2 is start question. It's yay! Because we're finally doing it. We're finally talking about normal people.
Okay, so, you're welcome, Yaya. Yaya! our good friend Yaya. Does it say who wrote that in?
Yeah, but I'm not going to say.
You're not going to say who it is? Okay, well, you know who you are. Yeah.
Question 3 is, would you recommend normal people as therapy for those who can't afford therapy?
Sure.
The thing is, the person who sent it in knows that how many times I watched it and how many times I use it for therapy.
Well, the proof is in that delicious pudding. It is absolutely... it's great therapy.
It's weird because not a lot of things, not a lot of media shows real people.
No,
it's just
and
real
they're
people.
Also like, I mean, Paul Mescal and Daisy-Edgar Jones are beautiful people. They're stunning looking, but they're not Hollywood good looking. You know what I mean? Like they're not airbrushed. They just look like normal kids, and I think that's there is a reality that you can't buy outside of these performances.
Oh, we need them as Batgirl and fucking Nightwing Man.
Grayson! Fucking Dick Grayson! I nearly did Irish then by accident. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not. I said I wouldn't. I said I might, but I said I wouldn't. And then I might. Dick Grayson! That sounds like the crazy guy in Waterworld. What are you talking about, Grayson? Like, if you've seen Waterworld, you know I'm talking about that guy. Oh, you can't get enough. Like that guy. That's kind of Irish. That's all I'm going to do. That's enough. No leprechaun nonsense. Is there a question number 4?
Yep. Is there any way you resonate with the protagonist? Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. How can you not? Even if you don't have the same problems or the same mental illness or the same family background or the same insecurities, that's why it's called Normal People. It's just about everything. Yeah. Just about all of it.
It's hard not to relate with them. Yeah, I resonate with Connor a lot. Not the book version. The book version still seems like the first 2 chapters that I've read, he still seems like a fucking dickhead.
Well, give it a minute. Would you give it a minute?
But yeah.
It's a book. You got to give it a minute. That's me turning pages. Like that. Sounds like I'm beaten off, actually. But
yeah, my mind went somewhere else.
Give me a minute. You can't do that in a podcast because that's horrible. I'm just whacking my Deadpool hoodie and it's got the That's the imprint of Deadpool. Anyway, question the fifth. Is there a question?
No, that's it.
That's it.
Those are the questions.
Is finish, and we love it, and it's so good to be here talking about normal people. Such a great show. Do go and check it out, and do come back next week's as well. And also, while you're there, can you please comment, like, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. Rate and review in Spotify and Amazon Music. It does help the profile of the show. Get all the other normal people in to talk about some fun shit. I'm kind of going a little bit silly at the end here because it was a very serious episode, but it was great to chat about it properly and really get into it. And yeah, thank you so much for introducing it to me. It has enriched my life in a lot of ways, and particularly my storytelling life. So yeah, you're a gem. I treasure you.
I love you. And you know, you said that about like people, and you know, especially like boys. Like I've kind of found people who I can like say that and tell them not to fucking be weird about it. Like just let it be.
Yeah.
So yeah, just tell the people that you love them.
You got to do it, man, even if it's hard. So thanks very much for checking us out, and we'll see you next. Do we know what we're doing next week? We're gonna do irregular people. It's a different show. Unusual folk. No, we don't know what we're gonna do next week. We'll wait and see. And in the meantime,
stay amazing and stay safe.